In this video, I'm going to give you advice for why you shouldn't smurf if you want to improve at Rainbow Six Siege. I'm not going to be coming at this video from the perspective of the people that you're smurfing against. I'm coming at it from the perspective of someone who used to smurf in the past and has realised that it was really hindering my improvement, and I wanted to actually improve at the game rather than just mess around. The first reason why you don't want to smurf if you want to improve at the game is because smurfing develops bad habits. When you're playing against less challenging enemies, you don't have to try as hard, you don't have to keep all your fundamentals down, you can make mistakes, you can leave gaps open, and this is the type of stuff that will carry through into your actual ranked games on your main account and into your actual games. These will carry through and they'll make sure that you lose on your main account rather than like how you're slamming people on your smurf. You don't need to use any kind of proper techniques, you don't need to use any kind of proper strategy. All you need to do is just run around and shoot at people. Whereas if you do that in a rank where people have the same or higher skill level than you, then you're just going to get fried on every opportunity. Instead of being lazy and smurfing, actively play on your main account and improve at the game. If you want to improve at the game, you can't be lazy about how you're learning and how you're playing. You can't be developing these bad habits. You have to try and always play on your main account, or always at least actively focus on improving, and you can't really improve against weaker enemies because it's just not how improvement works. Let's use this as an example. Let's say you're training for a boxing match. Who would you want to spar against? Would you want to spar against people on the same level or higher than you? Or would you want to spar against 10-year-olds? Like, anybody can go into a boxing ring and beat up a 10-year-old if they're older than them. Whereas when you come to actually fighting the people that you're going to be playing against, or fighting against if it's the boxing analogy, you're just going to get absolutely railed. You don't have to think about things like timings, defense, techniques. So why would you want to do that and play against people that are worse than you and develop bad habits? Like, I could run into a silver game or run into a copper game and not set up sites, not play any fucking good operators, and just run around shooting at them all. It's not going to make me a better player. All it's going to do is inflate your ego. The second thing that I want to talk about is no pressure will always equal no growth. Now, when you play against people that are worse than you at the game, there's not going to be a situation where you're stressed and you have to think on your feet. There's not going to be a situation where you have any pressure against you, because in your head you know these guys are worse than you. In your head you know these guys are not going to even put up a fight. So it's not going to stress you out to the point where you need to develop that level of critical thinking in your brain to be like, I need to think faster, I need to work harder. If you want to improve at literally anything, you have to learn from people that are better than you. If you're playing people that are worse than you, and you're not getting stressed out and not getting pressured in situations to have to think faster, you're not going to improve. I remember back when I was playing competitively, one of my favourite things to do was to scrim against pro teams. Now, if you don't know what a scrim is, basically it's like a competitive game where two teams hop in a custom game and they play against each other and work on the strats and try and figure out downsides to their strats and upsides and stuff like that. My favourite thing to do was to scrim pro teams. Now, this wasn't because like we'd see names on the enemy team like, oh, this guy just won an invitational and now I'm scrimming against him. Oh, we're scrimming against Pengu today. Like, it's not about that. It was about these guys can actively pick apart every single strategy that we have very easily, and to the point where like we would play a scrim against a pro team one day, would get 7-0'd, and then after that, because we got 7-0'd, we'd be able to work on that strats, like them strats, and then to the point where them strats became really good after that. I remember there was one time, like one of the very first pro scrims that I had back in the day, we got 7-0'd, and my teammates were getting kind of disheartened, like, what the fuck, we just got absolutely slapped about. But I kind of said to them, like, look, we can either do that and be sad about it, or use it as a learning experience. And then every single scrim from then on, where we scrimmed the map that was scrimmed there but we got 7-0'd on, we never ever got 7-0'd ever again. And we always took scrims, and then we always took scrims as learning opportunities rather than to play to win. This can translate into your ranked games, because if you're playing against people that are worse than you, you're not going to have that level of, oh shit, they've just countered my strategy completely. Oh shit, this strat is actually not that good that I thought it might have been, because they've just dismantled it. But they're not going to do that in lower ranks, so you're going to have like, you're going to go into games being like, whoa, these strats are really sick, I'm going to use them on my main. Then you play on your main and you get absolutely railed. Like, it doesn't compete the level of difference. The next thing I want to talk about is that it develops a level of false confidence in yourself and in your abilities. Now, let's say you've just played a game against coppers and you've won 13-0. You're going to think you're the fucking shit. You're going to think you're the bomb. Then you go onto your main account where people actually have fingers, and then you're just going to get fried off the game. And then you're going to get tilted at that because you've overestimated how good you actually are. because you're playing against people that were worse than you and you were slamming them. Now when you play against people that are as good as you or better, you're just going to get tilted and frustrated at the game, and then you're going to probably complain and stop playing for a little bit. But that wouldn't happen if you didn't actually smurf in the first place and you worked on actually improving. The next thing I want to talk about is you're also going to be slower to reacting to meta changes. So let's say there's a big change in metas that are happening in higher rank games. These are not going to happen for a while in lower rank games. So if you play for a long time in these lower rank games, once you switch back to your main account, you're going to be out of touch with what like sort of pushes people are doing. If there's a new kind of way to peak, if there's a new kind of like operator lineups, operator strats, you're just going to be rusty and behind when you actually come back to playing on your main account, and you don't want to be putting yourself in that situation. Like the first people to use new metas and the first people to innovate metas is higher rank people, and that eventually goes through to lower rank people when they see it in things like YouTube videos and stuff like that. So don't put yourself on the back foot when you actually go back to playing on your main account by playing in these lower rank games where people aren't as good and they're not using the actually like meta strats. The final thing I want to talk about is the fact that it's literally just a time waste. Instead of like playing against people that are on your skill level or better than you and learning from your mistakes and refining your mechanics, you're just farming wins, which is not practicing. You're not going to get any kind of practice on any kind of skill when you play against lower rank players. You're not going to get any kind of like, I don't want to hear the excuse of, oh, I'm just using it for aim training, because they aim a lot slower in copper ranks compared to champion ranks. So it doesn't compete that, like, it doesn't add up that you're using it for aim training, because they're not literally not aiming as fast as the people that you would have to aim against anyway. So you don't have to be as fast with the aim, you can be lazy with it, like I said in step 1. So instead of coping that it's improving you as a player, instead of coping that you're doing it for aim training, instead of coping that you're doing it for some kind of improvement, just accept the fact that you're doing it to bully lower rank players and then move on. And if you actually are serious about improving at the game, don't play on a Smurf, play on your main account. Maybe just don't even play ranked, like if you want to play on like a lower ranked account, instead of doing that, just play casual or standard, where you can like just chill for a little bit, but don't but if you actually want to improve in ranked, then play on your main account, because that's where the main improvement's going to come from, playing on your main account. Alright, so that's all for this video. If you want to hear my full thoughts on like smurfing just in general, leave a comment and I'll make a video on that, and like smurfing in general and how I think it impacts the game. But if you enjoyed this video, drop a like and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.